I never thought the day I discovered I was carrying new life would also be the day a complete stranger tried to steal it from me, and the man I loved most would nearly destroy everything we had left. My name is Elena, and 3 years ago I was 32, married to the only man I'd ever truly trusted, and finally pregnant after 4 heartbreaking years of trying. We had lost 2 babies early. Every ultrasound appointment felt like walking into a courtroom where the verdict could shatter us again. When the doctor smiled and said the heartbeat was strong at 12 weeks, I cried so hard I couldn't speak. Mark held my hand like it was the only solid thing left in the world. That night we painted the nursery soft sage green. We argued happily over names. For the first time in a long time, hope felt real. Then the letter arrived. It was thick, official, and addressed to both of us. Inside was a legal notice from a woman named Claire Harrington. She claimed that the child growing inside me was biologically hers. She said there had been a catastrophic mix-up at the fertility clinic we used 2 years earlier, the same clinic where Mark and I had undergone IVF after our second loss. According to the documents, the embryo implanted in me belonged to Claire and her late husband. She wanted full parental rights the moment the baby was born. She wanted to take my child. I read the letter 3 times on the kitchen floor before the words stopped spinning. Mark came home to find me rocking back and forth, the paper crushed in my fist. When I told him, the color drained from his face. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He just went very, very quiet, the kind of quiet that feels more dangerous than shouting. The next weeks were a blur of lawyers, blood tests, and sleepless nights. Claire was not a monster in person. She was a widow in her late 30s with soft eyes and a voice that cracked when she spoke about the husband she had lost to cancer 6 months before the embryo transfer. She had no living children. This pregnancy, she insisted, was her last chance at the family they had dreamed of together. Every time she looked at my swelling belly, I saw both hunger and grief. It made it harder to hate her. But I was the one carrying the baby. I was the one who felt every kick, every flutter, every midnight craving. Mark sat through every meeting with a stone face. Our lawyer kept saying the science would decide. Paternity and maternity testing of the unborn child through amniocentesis was possible but risky. I refused at first. The thought of a needle near my baby after everything we had already lost terrified me. Mark surprised me by agreeing. "We need the truth," he said quietly. "Whatever it is." The results came back on a rainy Thursday. The embryo was not Claire's. It was ours. The clinic had made a filing error years earlier, mixing up paperwork from 2 different couples who had stored embryos on the same day. Claire's remaining embryos were still safely frozen. Mine and Mark's were the ones that had been transferred. The stranger's claim collapsed in a single laboratory report. I expected relief. I expected Mark to pull me into his arms and laugh through tears the way he used to. Instead he stood in our living room, staring at the results, and said the words that still echo in my bones. I knew. I didn't understand at first. He repeated it, voice flat. He had known for weeks. The clinic had contacted him privately after Claire's lawyers started digging. They admitted the paperwork chaos and confirmed our embryos were the ones used. Mark had chosen not to tell me. He said he wanted the official test so there would be no lingering doubt, no future lawsuits, no shadows. But the way he said it felt colder than any explanation. In the days that followed, something broke between us. I couldn't stop seeing the secrecy as betrayal. He had let me suffer through the fear of losing our baby when he already knew the truth. Every time I looked at him, I saw the man who had chosen control over comfort. We stopped talking about the future. The nursery stayed half-finished. I moved into the guest room because sleeping beside him felt like lying next to a stranger. Claire, to her credit, sent a quiet apology and withdrew every claim. She even offered to help pay the legal fees we had both racked up. I declined. Some kindnesses are too heavy to accept. The lowest point came at 34 weeks. I went into early labor during a brutal argument about trust. Mark drove me to the hospital in silence. Our daughter, Sophie, was born small but fierce, screaming her way into a world that had already tried to take her twice. When the nurses placed her on my chest, something in me cracked open and poured out. All the fear, all the rage, all the loneliness of those months. I cried until my body shook. Mark stood in the doorway, eyes red, hands useless at his sides. He didn't ask to hold her. He just watched, as if he no longer believed he had the right. That night, while Sophie slept in the hospital bassinet, Mark finally told me the full truth. The clinic had not only contacted him, they had offered him a settlement to keep the air quiet. A large one. He had refused the money but still kept the information from me because he was terrified I would spiral into the same depression that had swallowed me after our earlier loss. He thought protecting me from the knowledge was love. Instead, it had nearly destroyed us. I didn't forgive him that night. Forgiveness doesn't work on demand. But I let him sit beside the bed. I let him watch our daughter breathe. And somewhere in the quiet beeping of hospital machines, the first fragile thread of something new began to form. The months after Sophie came home were slow and deliberate. We went to counseling. We talked until our throats hurt. Mark learned that shielding someone from pain is not the same as standing with them inside it. I learned that love can survive even the unthinkable if both people are willing to rebuild from the wreckage instead of walking away. Claire eventually had a child of her own through a successful transfer of her remaining embryos. She sent a single photo and a short note that simply said, "Thank you for fighting for what was yours." It helped me fight for what was mine. Sophie is almost 3 now. She has Mark's stubborn chin and my stubborn heart. The sage green nursery is long finished, covered in crayon masterpieces and stuffed animals. Some nights, when the house is quiet and our daughter is asleep between us, I still feel the ghost of that letter and the cold weight of Mark's silence. But then I look at the man who chose, every day since, to become trustworthy again. And I remember that the unthinkable is not always the end of a story. Sometimes it is the brutal beginning of a better one. If this story reached something tender inside you, if you have ever stood on the edge of losing everything and somehow found your way back, please take a second to like this video. It helps more than you know. And if you want more stories about the messy, stubborn, redemptive power of love and family, hit that subscribe button and stay with us. We tell these stories because someone out there needs to hear that broken things can still become beautiful. You are stronger than the darkest chapter. Keep turning the page.